Hello my lovely viewer, I am back once again with a 2002 American superhero film based on the Marvel Comics titled Spider-Man. Watch the full video to find out the interesting part and take care. As a disclaimer, this video includes my own analysis, commentary, and it's not a substitute of the full movie. Click the link below to watch, buy or rent the movie. Peter Parker is the school dork who is bullied by everyone except two people, Mary Jane Watson, the girl next door whom he has loved since he was a child and who is now dating Flash Thompson. Harry Osborn, his best friend, is the other, the wealthy son of scientist and businessman Norman Osborn. As a father, Norman is disappointed that Harry has yet to meet his intellectual expectations. In fact, he is more pleased by Peter, who demonstrates a scientific aptitude. Parker experiences his regular bad luck while on a field trip to a science lab, as his best friend flirts with his lifelong crush. Peter is then bitten by a genetically modified super spider that has escaped its safe haven. Norman Weiss of Oscorp tries to get a military contract by showing off their new glider, but their human performance enhancers aren't ready yet. The strength of rats grew by 800%, yet one test case demonstrated extreme aggression, antagonism, and insanity. Norman, on the other hand, wants to continue forward with human testing, whereas Dr. Strom wants to go back to the formula. Military officials have threatened to withhold funds if a successful human research is not completed within 2 weeks. Peter returns to his Uncle Ben and Aunt May, who cared for him while his parents were away. Despite this, he ignores dinner and goes to bed early. He passes unconscious due to his discomfort as a result of the spider bite. Internally, the super spider DNA mixes with his own, causing him to pass out. Osborn tests performance boosters on himself in the lab. The consequences are immediate, as Osborn murders Dr. Strom in a fit of wrath. Peter's vision is restored the next morning. He now has an outstanding body and a sticky hand. MJ avoids Peter at school as usual till she falls. Peter catches her with his new reflexes, and she notices him for the first time. Spiderweb bursts from Peter's wrists, ending his moment of glory. In an attempt to slip away unnoticed, Peter throws a lunch plate at Flash Thompson, who retaliates by attacking him. Peter deflects the bully's strikes with ease and defeats him with a single punch. Afterwards, Peter puts his skills to the test, discovering that he can climb walls, jump from building to building, and throw webs from his hand like a grappling hook, though it takes a few attempts. When Peter returned home that night, he discovered his uncle had painted the kitchen by himself. Peter is meant to be helping with a chore, when he hears MJ's drunken father screaming at her from across the street. Peter takes out the litter as she takes a breather outside, and the two talk about their coming graduation. He intends to relocate to Manhattan, where he will work as a photographer while attending college. She too wishes to go to the city and pursue a career as an actor. Peter trusts in her, despite her embarrassment at the admission. Following morning, Peter finds an advertisement in the newspaper for amateur wrestling, which is looking for colorful characters. As a result, he creates a spider-themed costume for himself. Later, Uncle Ben confronts Peter about his recent tendency of avoiding responsibilities and remember what his uncle said, with great power comes tremendous responsibility. Peter yells at him to quit acting like his father and rushes away. Participants in the wrestling fight are awarded $3,000 if they can survive 3 minutes with a bone saw. Peter registers as the human spider, but the announcer changes his mind. Instead, he is introduced as Spider-Man. He effortlessly defeats Bonesaw. The organizer, however, refuses to pay him the full payment because the agreement was supposed to last 3 minutes and Spider-Man wins in much less time. As Peter walks away, a stranger pulls out a gun and robs the organizer. When the robber flees, Peter lets him go, having no respect for the organizer who had failed to pay him in full. On the way home, Peter comes the cops carrying to his Uncle Ben, who has been shot by a carjacker. Peter stands by and watches his uncle die and chases down the attacker. He catches his uncle's killer at a storehouse and identifies him as the robber he didn't stop earlier. When the guy takes out a revolver, Peter dismantles him and crushes his wrist. The robber staggers backwards, trips, and falls to his death from the warehouse. Peter goes back home and soothes his recently widowed aunt. In the desert, the military officer who had threatened Norman observes as Oscorp's competitor tests their exoskeleton, which will replace the ineffective human performance boosters. However, they are stopped by the cackling of Norman Osborn, as he glides in on his glider and blasts them all up. The next day, Peter and Harry graduate from high school. Norman congratulates Harry for not failing out, then congratulates Peter on his science prize. Meanwhile, MJ splits up with Flash Thompson, which Harry observes. Peter cries that night because he misses his uncle. May, his aunt, calms him. Later, Peter analyzes his costume and recalls his uncle's words, "With great power comes great responsibility." In the days ahead, he creates new costumes while preventing crimes and saving lives. He becomes known throughout the city as Spider-Man, a hero. But one man, J. Jonah Jameson, editor of the main newspaper The Daily Bugle, regards him as a threat. Spider-Man, on the other hand, sells newspapers, so Jameson requests that his photo be displayed on the front cover. Unfortunately, no one has been able to capture a good image of him. As a result, he issues a prize. Peter comes into MJ while searching for a job and discovers she's seeing his friend and now roommate, Harry Osborn. Later, he spots an ad in the daily papers asking for Spider-Man photographs. So the next time he leaves on a crime-fighting mission, he sets up a camera that will shoot continuous photos. At the Bugle, Jameson dismisses the photograph but purchases it and offers to work with Peter as a freelancer. Despite Peter's plea for a full-time position, the board of directors of Oscorp tells Norman that the firm has been sold to Quest. One of the parameters of the deal is that Norman will be fired as CEO. After Oscorp's World Unity Festival, the agreement will be disclosed. Norman is angry at his dismissal. At the festival, Harry is upset with MJ since she did not wear the black outfit he requested, which he believed might please his father. Meanwhile, Peter shoots images for the Bugle until, due to his spider sense, he detects danger. Norman enters in a green costume on his glider. He kills the board members that fired him, as well as nearly killing others in the process. However, Peter transforms into Spider-Man in order to fight off Osborn and save the others. When Spider-Man destroys the glider, Norman takes off and threatens to face Spider-Man again soon. Meanwhile, due to damage caused by Norman, a balcony collapses, and Peter saves a falling MJ. He swings her to safety. Then, as he flies away, MJ looks on, fascinated. She subsequently tells Harry about how amazing Spider-Man was, and he becomes jealous. With a self-congratulatory smile, Peter hears their phone talk. After that, Harry expresses regret for dating Peter's crush. In another scene, Norman hears a distorted version of his own disembodied voice to him. His demonic alter ego informs Norman how he killed the board members. From his reflection in the mirror, Norman is shocked to discover that he is becoming nuts as a result of the performance boosters. They'll be able to gain so much power. They'll be able to achieve a great deal of power, but they must first eliminate Spider-Man, either by killing him or hiring him. The new enemy is named the Green Goblin by Jameson at the Bugle. Just as the Goblin himself appears and chokes him, demanding to know who brought in the Spider-Man photos. Parker's identity is protected by the newspaper editor, who claims that the images are sent anonymously. When Spider-Man arrives to save the day, the Green Goblin uses toxic gas to knock him out. When Peter wakes up, the Goblin warns Spider-Man that the city would ultimately turn against him, despite his valiant actions. Instead, the Goblin offers Spider-Man an alliance, telling him to think about it before flying away. The next article of the Daily The Bugle inaccurately says that Spider-Man and the Goblin planned to frighten Jameson. People began turning against Spider-Man as a result of the newspaper's influence, just as Norman warned. Later, after an unsuccessful audition, Peter follows in on MJ and provides a consoling cheeseburger. She does, however, have supper with Harry. Peter inquires about his well-being, but immediately withdraws. MJ's look indicates that things with Harry aren't going well, and coyly wonders why Peter is so interested. Then, just as she's about to leave, she says, "I'd better run, Tiger." When he notices some thugs following her, he transforms into Spider-Man and rushes to her help. She thanks him, and as he hangs upside down in the rain, she rolls up his mask to just below his nose and kisses him. To attract Spider-Man, the Green Goblin sets fire to an apartment building the next day. Peter saves a baby and then goes back to look for other survivors, but all he finds is a goblin. When Peter rejects his offer of a partnership, Norman attacks and hurts Spider-Arm Man's before fleeing. Later, Aunt May hosts a Thanksgiving dinner for MJ and the Osborns before they say grace, and Norman sees Peter's arm wound. He's exposing that he's Spider-Man. Norman departs and Harry follows him, emphasizing how happy he was for him to meet MJ. Norman screams at him that the girl is only for his money. Inside, Peter's Aunt May and MJ are listening to everything. MJ rushes away, leaving Harry to defend his father pitifully. Norman's sick alter ego asks that he torture Peter by pursuing his loved ones. As a result, the Green Goblin pays a visit to Aunt May and terrorizes her. Peter comes across her in the hospital and overhears her rantings about those dreadful yellow eyes. MJ pays a visit to May and Peter at the hospital afterwards. She confesses to Peter that she has been avoiding Harry's calls. The truth is that she is in love with someone, and that is Spider-Man. Peter informs her that he is Spider-Unofficial Man's photographer, and that Spider-Man once asked Peter what he thought of MJ. Peter tells her what he said about staring into Mary Jane's eyes, causing a storm of emotions, and she is impressed by his words. Aunt May quietly listens while pretending to sleep, and MJ grabs Peter's hand just as Harry enters to and see their closeness. When he goes home, he informs his father that he was correct about MJ. She doesn't love him, she loves Peter, and Peter is in love with MJ since 4th grade. As another possible victim, Norman silently takes note of this vital person in Spider life. Norman then hugs his son to calm him. Aunt May wants Peter to tell MJ how much he loves about her. Everyone else is aware, and Peter realizes that everyone else could include the Green Goblin, putting MJ in risk. He rushes to contact Mary Jane, but the Green Goblin picks up the phone and urges Peter to look for her on top of the Roosevelt Bridge. The Goblin removes a trolley car filled with children from its tracks, then offers Peter the option of saving them or saving MJ. He drops both, and instead of choosing, Spider-Man catches MJ and then the trolley. He has both of them in his grip, making fight with the Goblins nearly impossible. Spider-Man, on the other hand, isn't alone. People on the bridge hurl garbage and other items at the Goblin, giving Peter the opportunity to gently descend MJ and the trolley to a barge below. Peter is chased by the Goblin to an empty building, where they have their deadly encounter. Peter is on the point of defeating him when the evil unmasks to show his true identity. Peter hesitates when he sees his friend's father. Until the Goblin calls his glider, Peter avoids the fight and the machine smashes Norman instead. He is impaled against the wall, and Peter is told not to tell his son Harry about it, and he dies. Spider-Man brings back the Norman's body to his house, but Harry spots him before he can leave. At Norman's funeral, he swears revenge on Spider-Man for murdering his father. When MJ expresses her love for him and kisses him, Peter knows that no matter what he does, everyone he loves will get hurt, so he walks away. And the kiss feels familiar to the sad MJ. The movie ends here. Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like and comment to support the channel. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.